Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Thrive Co-Living Communities YouTube podcast. I'm Mark Stein, Thrive founder and your podcast host. We're creating sustainable, inclusive, and multi-generational residential communities. Our mission is to combat the epidemic of isolation, revitalize communities, and help others discover the many benefits of engaged community living by offering unique and ecologically sustainable co-living options. In this podcast series, join us as we discuss co-living, in addition to bringing you interesting people from around the world who are doing cool things to expand your knowledge and satisfy your curiosity. Through this podcast, learn more about our concept and see how Thrive co-living communities will bring together people from all walks of life who want to enjoy the best of independent and group living. To find out more about us, please visit our website at thrivecolivingcommunities.org. Thanks for watching and enjoy the podcast. So, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Thrive Co-Living Communities podcast. I'm your host, Mark Stein. In this podcast, I'm interviewing a local person in the St. Pete area for it's Sara Baez, and she is with Care Patrol, and they help families find independent living, assisted living, or memory care for their senior loved ones. So I'm glad to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you, Mark. Very glad to be here. Thank you.
So, first of all, tell us a little bit about your background and what sparked your interest in, I assume this is a franchise.
Yes, sir. It is a franchise, correct?
Okay, don't call me sir, though.
Yes, sorry, Mark.
We, most people that have that habit were either in strict families that
Yes.
would uh, chastise. They
Yes.
didn't say sir, or in the military.
Option one.
Option one.
Strict.
Okay.
Yes.
See if you can't resist, feel free, and I'll just ignore it. Whenever
I'll try.
anybody calls me Mr. Stein, I look to see if my father's behind me. So I'm
Gotcha.
one of those perpetual kids that doesn't like
Gotcha.
their age. So anyway,
Gotcha.
so um, tell us a little bit again about your background and
Sure.
what drew you to this franchise.
Sure. So it's a little different. I was working in a completely different industry. I was there for about 15 years. Everything was going well. And then I was on vacation with my husband, helping a good friend move. And I got a text or an email from my boss about a call, but that I didn't have to be on it because I was on vacation. And I'm thinking, well, if you texted me or reached out somehow, I should probably be on it. I get on this call, and our entire department, like nationwide, is laid off. So I'm like, well, that's bad news. Um, I was at the company, like I said, for 15 years, and so when when the vacation was over, and I got to thinking, like, what am I going to do? You're on all the job boards and the different platforms trying to figure it out. I had already gone to college and gotten my undergrad, and then gone back again for nursing school. Never finished and worked as a nurse, just went through the LPN level. Um, but I was like, what do I want to do? And so long story short, because I was on all the various job boards and different things to figure out what to do, I got a call from um, I guess you'd call it like a headhunter for small businesses to figure out if you're going to be a good fit for a small business like franchise. And I remember the call. It was, have you ever thought about owning your own business? And I
What was
remember,
your reaction to that question?
well, I was like, what a dumb question. Who hasn't thought? It's America. Everybody wants to own their own business. That's what my initial thought was. Again, mind you, I'm overwhelmed and I'm frustrated and I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life. So I'm usually not that, but that's literally what I thought. And it was his admin initially. It was a woman. I remember that woman who reached out, and she was like, "Well, would you mind getting a call from?" His name is actually Jeff Collins, so it was very, very good. To kind of go into more detail. I'm like, sure, because I'm at this point doing all the calls, all the information, because I just want to figure out what to do with my life. And get on a call with him. and there's no cost. So I was like, okay, the worst thing will happen is maybe I'll learn more about myself and I'll waste some time if I don't find a path, but maybe I'll learn something. Went over different exercises, different things to kind of figure out what I like, what I didn't like, what I'd be good at, all those types of things. And it was COVID time as well. We were kind of just coming out of COVID or the tail end of COVID. And so my main two requirements, pretty pretty basic, was like I don't want to sell people stuff they don't need, and I don't want brick and mortar because obviously that, the nation was shut down. So not, not too picky there. I was just, those were my requirements. And we got to it and there was, I think, 5 or 6 options. And then we whittled them down to 3. And then I was stuck on 2 for a while, which was Care Patrol and another one. And I remember when he introduced Care Patrol, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally had no idea of that industry. It was quite new to me. And so I did the call. I called about a quarter to a third of the company, about the franchisees, because I wanted to find out what goes on, how it works, what they do, who's miserable, and really no one seemed miserable. I was like, that's odd. No, these people aren't getting paid to talk to me, and they all seemed pretty content. And it wasn't selling people stuff they don't need, because if they're working with us for these services, they're at a time of need, sometimes very dire need, and it's not brick and mortar. I'm mobile. I literally go to the person, typically meet them in their house because they're usually not in a position to be driving it out and about. And then really still that last day, I couldn't make a decision, and my husband took a pad of paper, made a quick pros and cons list. I was like, what's good about this one? Blank. What's good about this one? Blank. Bad. Bad. And he's like, okay, Care Patrol. And I was like, and then I literally was like, I think, and he's like, you were torn? You needed help? Okay. And I was like, okay. We've been together for, it's between dating and marriage, like over 20 years. So, he's got my best interest at heart and vice versa. So I was like, okay. And then we made the decision and signed the contract. And I was like, oh God. And then it started. That's
How
how I
long
got
ago,
into it.
how long ago was that?
A little over 4 years.
Okay. Now there are quite a few franchises in this space. What did you look at any of the other types of franchise, and the other brands? Um, I'm thinking of some, but they're not coming
I
to me
did.
right now.
That's okay. I don't want you to think of them. I did
Yeah,
not
I don't want to
do.
name the brands, right?
I did not think about them or research them. If we're being honest, I truly didn't know about this industry.
Mhm.
And longevity is not on my side, so I got to make sure to just do what I can for health. We never got to the point of needing that for anyone in my family that I know of. So I am. It was new, completely new to me. So I didn't even I didn't even think about there being other like brands to do it with.
Mhm.
So no, I did not.
I think I read somewhere, maybe in your bio, that it was created by a social worker.
Yes, sir.
Is
Correct.
that
Guess
one of
what?
the, yeah, is that one of the appeals to you
I
initially?
liked, yeah, I liked that because it was created because of a problem. Like he created the model because he was having patients, they were being discharged to the wrong type of community or place or setting. And when families were trying to figure it out, it was too much. Like it was literally just too much. You're doing all this research. You're stressed out because something's going on with a loved one, either your parent or your spouse, usually your parent or your spouse, and then, or yourself. And then you're trying to research stuff that you've never looked at before and then make usually a permanent decision. You can reverse it, but you don't want to keep doing that. So then he noticed they were in the wrong settings, or the hospital would
Mhm.
discharge them to the wrong setting. So yeah, it came out of a place of need, which again was part of my not wanting to sell people stuff they didn't need.
And now that you have been in the industry for a while, um, are there other things that you know of that distinguish your brand and your particular approach, personal approach, from that distinguishes you and the brand from other similar services that will still remain nameless?
Thank you, Mark. Um, yes, I think one of the biggest things is, so we're not the biggest company. We're one of the oldest, but we're not the biggest company. But the reason is we're not all kind of crazy online, lots of online marketing. The fastest way to get the highest amount of revenue is online, right? You're going to shoot out people's information to everybody. But nobody appreciates that. I can't remember, I don't think I've ever met one person who's like, I love it when 15 people call me to sell me the same product. I just love being inundated. Nobody wants that. And they don't want that when they're in good health and everything's going well, let alone when they're not. So one of the big differentiators is we're literally one-on-one concierge service with the senior and their family. So when the senior, if they choose to go online and fill out the intake form, it's going to come to me. If they call, it's going to come to me. If they text, me. If they email, me. And the response is going to be from me. And if I decided to hire another person to help, it'd be me and one person. They're not getting sent to
Up to corporate and then down to you.
well, not that, and they're not filling out this form with their information, getting a quick 10-minute call, and then getting their personal information, their name, their address, their phone number, their email sent out to a bunch of sales directors who are then going to call them and try to sell them on why they're the best community. And that's a big differentiator is they're not like, well, I got your information, I've shot you out to everybody, now I'm going to move on to the next person and wait for the close. No, I'm gonna do the intake with you, figure out what's going on, health wise, financially, preferences. It's an in person or over the phone, depending on the person's preferences, scheduling, and that kind of thing. And then I set up the tour with them, and help them understand all the good and the bad, the costs, the move, all those kinds of things that people are kind of unaware of, and that the sales director at like a community wouldn't necessarily go over. Maybe they don't think to go over it because they think it's common sense, because sometimes when you do something long enough, you think everyone knows. And or B, it's just like it's a waste of time. They don't want to do it. So most companies aren't going to spend that much time on the stuff that doesn't make them money. But that stuff does help the client immensely, and that's a big differentiator between Care Patrol and the competition, is we're genuinely helping the client. I can't remember one client or the family of the client if the person had like, maybe very advanced dementia or something where they couldn't properly respond, that was not happy with our services once we had found the resolution. So
Okay.
that's the big differentiator, I'd say.
Okay. And obviously you and let's see, you're south of Tampa, Bradenton area.
Yeah, I go from Riverview to Bradenton and then
Okay.
out to Parrish and Palmetto, Duet, yes. And then if
Okay.
somebody's slightly outside of my lines in the sand, then I do the intake, do the same process, and then I do a soft handoff to the me that intimately knows the communities where they want to move.
Okay. And let's go ahead and talk about national. So I'm assuming there are franchises all around the country, and you would do the same thing, soft handoff to the person. Somebody's calling from Michigan, Detroit, and you would find them uh, a Care Patrol franchisee there. And if not, um, what happens? If there's not anybody in their area of Michigan.
So that's happened recently. I won't mention the area, but it did. What I did is I made connection with a person that I knew that works like we do. They're not a big, huge conglomerate. It's not a bunch of employees. And nothing's wrong with employees, so I don't want to sound negative about that. But when you own it and your livelihood and your brand and your everything is kind of dependent on how you treat people, interact, it's going to be a bit different. You can't just walk away. But so I have made connections with people that work like I do, work like Care Patrol does, so that I know, okay, there's not an actual Care Patrol in XYZ, but I know this person, trust them. I'd send my mother to them or vice versa. And so then I get them connected with that person.
Okay. And let's dive into the details of, uh, I know there are different levels of care, so each one would present differently. But maybe do a summary of each level of care that you help place and
Okay.
sort of what you do, your due diligence to, I'm sure you're aware of all of the facilities in your area, and that's a good thing about being having a relatively small territory is that you can
Yes.
be very familiar,
Yes.
and they're familiar with you. Um,
Agreed.
so let's talk about maybe briefly each level of care and how the patient, do you refer to them as patients or clients?
Clients.
Clients. They're clients to you, patients to them, to the
Residents. They're
facility.
residents to them.
Oh,
They're
okay.
residents. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not in the industry. Um,
Totally fine.
um,
So
so what does
in
it look,
that,
what does it look like?
so a lot of times when this person calls or emails, however they reach out, they'll say, um, we need a nursing home. Nursing home's the biggest thing people will ask for. And it's a very small number. I don't have it memorized. It's like 5% of the nation actually medically needs a nursing home. So 9 times out of 10, I'm like, I don't say that, but you hear it and you're like, okay, so we need some kind of help. So there's independent living, there's assisted living, there's memory care, and then there's an actual nursing home. And so independent living is the senior is mainly doing pretty well, but they are no longer capable of or no longer wanting to take care of the house, where they're living. They don't want to do the cooking, the cleaning, the grocery shopping, maintaining it, staying on top of all the electric bill, the water bill, all that kind of stuff is just getting to be too much. Either it's too much, they literally can't, or they don't want to. And so an independent living community is a good option because they pay one fee for all that stuff. There'll be 1 to 3 meals provided per day, depending on the plan and the community. They do vary. Some have outside companies or inside companies, but some have staff on the grounds to help do like med management or one-off services. Like maybe everything's totally fine, but this person needs help getting into and out of the shower. Well, they don't need to go to a full-blown assisted living for that. That an independent living would be fine. Okay, so now we're next level. Person needs help typically with 2 or more activities of daily living. Walking, transferring, dressing, going to the restroom, grooming, or eating. Okay. And then it's going to get more pricey if they're living in an independent living and paying separately for those charges. So then typically we can find an assisted living that will fit their needs and budget and be better and more inclusive. That, and if they're more of a fall risk, because there's more staff because you need more help. So that's typically when you actually need help with activities of daily living is when assisted living comes into play. Now, when you're looking at between assisted living and memory care, it just because somebody has some type of an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis doesn't mean they automatically need to be in memory care. There's lots of seniors functioning perfectly well in assisted living that have the beginnings of Alzheimer's or dementia, or maybe even moderate, sometimes a little bit more advanced, but let's say they've been in that assisted living for 7 years as their disease has progressed. They're not an elopement risk because they're so used to their surroundings. They've never just wandered out before, so why would they start now? And that really is very common. Or they live with their spouse, and typically as the one, and again, every situation is different, but typically as one starts to develop more severe in their diagnosis or more progressed in their diagnosis, they'll still kind of follow their spouse. And I don't mean like literally, but spouse takes the lead and they're like, okay, we're going to breakfast. They'll kind of listen and do what they're doing. But memory care is typically not needed unless a person cannot manage activities of daily living safely without queuing, and like they can't manage time and space. They're unsafe or they're an elopement risk. Um, we won't mention specifics to violate the person's privacy. There's a person, a family I'm working with, that the person was placed right after a stroke. still wasn't healed, very close to right after the stroke. Medications, everything was still kind of array. And so she appeared to be memory care. Well, once those symptoms subsided because of the stroke, the symptoms had gone away, she's improving, she's getting therapy. She's like, where am I? What am I doing here? And so it's important to know the difference. Just because somebody's maybe a little off here and there with something due to like a stroke or a UTI, urinary tract infection, can often appear to be memory care symptoms. They'll be in the wrong community. So it's important to ask those kinds of questions, because those three types of communities are very different. And even in them, not all assisted livings are created equal, not all independent livings, not all memory care. They are all a little bit different. So it's important to kind of really dig in and not just ask surface level questions. And that's why I like to typically do the intake in person as opposed to over the phone. It's more personal, people are more honest, they get more comfortable, and I can get a better read for what's actually going to be a better fit.
Do sometimes those stroke victims or some of the other situations where they present as needing memory care, can they back up and go back to assisted living?
Yes, they definitely can. It's never, I shouldn't say never. I'm sure there's some situations where something is permanent. It's almost never permanent. It's typically a month-to-month lease, but you pay a community fee. Nine times out of 10, you're paying a community fee of somewhere between, $500 to $4,000. It's very rare to not have a community fee, so nobody wants to pay that again. You have to pay to move all your furniture from the one, because they don't provide furniture. You have to pay to move your furniture from your current community to your new one. You have to get resettled into everything and adjusted and acclimated. And if the community that you're in only has memory care, some have assisted living on one side and memory care on the other, or independent, assisted, and memory care. Those are typically continuing care retirement communities. But still, that moving is very jarring. It's a lot. You started to develop relationships, understand the system, what the steps are daily, what time meals are, the caregivers. So then to then be kind of ripped out of that, even if it's the best idea, and then have to start again, that's a lot of stress on the family and the senior that's actually the resident. So they can be rehomed, but we want to avoid that at all costs, because it's a lot of stress.
So it's not very common to go from memory care and back up.
Not very common. I saw it once when it wasn't a mistake. Like this one was a mistake. I think it was just everything happened too quickly. They weren't working with me. It was, everything doesn't always happen as people would like. But I've seen it once where the person was in memory care because she had I graduated, for lack of better words, to assisted living. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's wonderful. And she wasn't my client. I was visiting my client, but you get to know people because you're going somewhere. And I had asked about it, and they were like, yeah, she's improved. And we don't know, you can't 100% figure out what happened to improve it. Was it diet? Was it exercise? Was it socialization? Was it sleep? Was it med? Yeah, it's not very common for a person to go from memory care to assisted living if they were properly placed. So actually reversing or improving so much that they don't need memory care and then going into assisted living, I haven't seen it that often. It's obviously great if it does happen. That means something is working: medication, sleep, diet, exercise, prayer. I don't know. We don't know what yet, but I haven't seen it that often. Actually happened if the person was placed correctly. So they were placed correctly, and then they actually improved.
Could be like a Awakenings. I don't know if you remember the movie Awakenings, where people just started coming out of their funk and
Well, sometimes, and I'm not a doctor or a nurse or an attorney, so we'll set that. But like when people I've seen, I'm sure some people that are looking into this for themselves or a loved one, if they're noticing slippage or decline, have done research about diabetes, and they're calling it diabetes number 3 as a link to dementia or Alzheimer's. And so sometimes when people are going into these communities, and their diet is markedly improving. Because a lot of times when a person is getting more advanced in age, they're not eager to sit there cooking 2 to 3 meals a day, eating lots of protein, something quick and easy, some kind of bread, some kind of starch, some kind of sugary item. Well, that repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, they're not getting much protein or fat. And so I've seen people go, and now I'm not saying I've seen the dementia reduced or reversed, but I've seen them no longer need insulin or diabetes medication. So their diabetes type 2 has been reversed or paused, or however we want to call it, but it's improved. And I've talked to people that have had significant others where before they have to go fully into a community, that have improved their spouse's MOCA scores when they're getting tested for dementias, by improving their diet, their exercise, their sleep. It's amazing. But again, we don't have like a 100%. You do this and then this, right? But I've seen a few accounts of that, and it is remarkable.
And it sounds like there's some, depending on if they're just in a sole memory care facility, there's some real financial disincentives to back
Yeah.
unless there's independent
Well,
or
so you mean,
assisted within the same community.
well, even though it's going to cost a lot to go from a memory care to assisted living or assisted to independent, the cost for memory care is substantially more than assisted living. It's a lot more care. You're talking about seniors that need help with bathing and dressing and toileting and the safety. So you need more eyes, you need more people. So it costs more. So even though nobody wants to spend that amount for a move and the fee and all that kind of stuff, long term, if they truly have graduated from being or needing memory care to assisted living, long term, they're going to save money because it's going to cost less for the care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the way, there was a interesting comedy drama with Ted Danson, and I don't remember the name and I don't remember the station, but he's a detective helping solve a crime in a nursing home, and the whole dynamic of the nursing home is there, and it's a really fun show.
I'll have to look that up. Ted
Probably
Danson?
probably on Netflix, and it's new
Okay.
first
Okay.
season, so you'll
Okay.
enjoy the settings, and
Yeah.
he's delightful anyway.
Yeah.
So you are not having a big corporation doing a lot of advertising online and otherwise, TV, feeding you leads. So
Correct.
it's more the development and lead generation is more on you,
Correct.
and networking and meeting with people in the community. It sort of leads to a next topic about some of the challenges, including that comes with your work.
Yes.
What are the biggest challenges, and what are your strategies for overcoming them? Maybe talk
Okay.
about some that you've already overcome or some that
Okay.
you're working on. And I think other
Sure.
business people in general would be interested in hearing that.
Sure. So yeah. So we're not a big online company. There's not a lot of advertising, not as much as I would like, obviously. We'd all like more advertising. So mine is very boots on the ground. I'm the marketer. I'm the person who does the placement. I'm the accountant. I'm everything. But so for marketing, so the biggest thing I try to do is get into the community, like literally the local community, and network my pants off, so that I'm talking to everyone. Because once people get a face and a name and they understand what we do, if they meet somebody, whether it's a doctor's office, a paramedic, a senior in need, and they have us connect and we work together, it's done. Once a person's worked with me once, they're sold, because then they understand, oh my, this is what you do and how helpful it is. And again, it's no cost for the senior because we're compensated by the communities, because we kind of have the benefit of being, so we're local because we're a franchise, but we're nationwide because we're a franchise. So we have contracts with everybody. So the senior or the business doesn't have to worry about, oh, I don't know about referring this doctor's office that sees a lot of geriatric clients that are needing this kind of service to Sarah because she's only going to send them to these 3 places because they're the only ones that will fit. No, they'll all compensate us. So we'll work with all of them to figure out what's the best fit. So we'll go to a lot of doctor's offices, pitch the doctor on our services, explain them, leave a little paraphernalia so they can look at it later when they have more time. And then, once they've sent a client or two, the patient for them, client for me, they'll understand it and it'll keep going because then they see the value and they understand what we do. I literally go door to door. Probably the most stressful part of the job is marketing, door to door to doctors' offices, different networking events, networking meetings, luncheons. I have an ad in the paper right now, the local paper. It hits about 40,000 households. I've done some YouTube stuff. I'm not definitely by far not at Mark's level. So it takes me a lot of time. So I should probably look into Mark more. Mailers, I've tried mailers. You kind of a small business, you try all those different things and see what sticks. Expos are a big one, like having the booth at the expos so that people can meet you. Because my territory, just my personal territory is part of Hillsborough and part of Manatee. So it's kind of like 2 little areas, right? And so the more, especially with the seniors, the more people know your face with your name, with your brand, the more they're likely to trust you. And the same with the community. And especially, we're in Florida. Most seniors are here by themselves. Their kids aren't here, their families aren't here. Everyone comes to Florida. So a lot of people vacation here, then they like it. So they move down here, they retire. Everything's great for 10, 20, 30 years. And then it happens to all of us, most of us, your health starts to decline a bit, starts to fail, and then they start to need some services. And unfortunately, everyone's trying to take advantage of everyone and scam them and sell them stuff, so they don't know who to trust. So that's why I try to be very visible. I'm on the chamber board, the local chamber of commerce. Just today, I moved from being just a lovely board member to the vice president, so that's great. I'm in the local Rotary, Rotary Club of Sun City Center. So we go out and we do different things to help seniors in need, seniors and kids. There's lots of activities, but obviously my focus is seniors. But that just to help with visibility so that the community sees my face. I'm on a council for the local hospital. They're trying to help improve their perception. So they have a board to help. So it's not their official hospital board, it's another one to help with like kind of perception and show us what's going on. So different things like that to be out and in the community. Anytime there's an event or right now we're doing something called the Senior Giving Tree. If this is our 5th year, if I'm remembering it correctly, and it's where we go to the local assisted livings, nursing homes, and we gather lists of the stuff that the local seniors need, and then we put it out on our social media, the local newspaper. We reach out to everyone in our networking groups to gather all the items so that the seniors that are financially unable, they don't have family, that kind of stuff, so that they have stuff for Christmas, the stuff that they want. And they're not asking for Rolex watches, it's basic things, but so we do things like that to get out in the community, get our name known, and know that we're just not a fly-by-night operation. We're literally here to help improve people's lives and help them during like a time of stress. So a lot of boots on the ground marketing. Here and there, I try to post funny, catchy, witty, maybe sometimes just lame, but post stuff on social media, on my Facebook, and a few YouTube videos, but all those kinds of different things. You're shooting everything out, and somebody will catch this, somebody will catch that, and it works. It's a lot, but it works.
The hardest thing is catching family members or the seniors. And so what percentage of your new clients are the actual families, and what percentage are professionals, doctors, nurses, etc.?
So I'd say probably 70 to 80% are professionals that I'm getting the referrals from. which I typically like more, because so the other part of this industry is, so we do all the stuff with the family, we figure out the needs, we send out the referral. But if the family's already gone on to like a big online conglomerate, filled out their information, and it's been shot out to everybody, we won't be compensated regardless of how much work we do. So I want to say most of my fruitful referrals are from doctor's offices, paramedics, the police department, hospitals, because they catch it early, earlier usually than family will, because family's not here. And the senior, unfortunately, if they do a simple Google search or search on their phone, and I've heard this a lot more often than I'd like, they'll think they're searching and filling out one thing, but they're actually filling out another. And then they're stuck in a loop of stuff. So yeah, I'd say the majority of the referrals are from professionals.
Hmm. And those professionals can keep feeding you,
Oh,
whereas
yeah.
the family referrals or the self-referrals are one-off, unless they talk to friends.
Well,
So,
yeah, and sometimes, and that's the other thing, the other reason that it's kind of, well, I shouldn't say kind of, it's good to go with a small brand is you do good by the family and they refer you to everyone they know. You know what I mean? And maybe they don't know 10 people that need to be placed, but eventually you get a call and you're like, I remember that name. You're like, "Oh, awesome." That, you know what I mean? You live a mark, and they refer you. And the other thing we help or try to ask for is Google reviews and Facebook reviews, because then when people are kind of just starting and they're getting their feet wet, I know I look at reviews. They can go online and see what previous families have had to say. Um, but yeah, not nearly as many repeat referrals from families, because how many people are aging out and into that? Yeah, but a good
mhm.
amount. I'm not complaining. I'll take them
Mhm.
all.
Um, and do you, like for a fire department, do you do sort of the drug rep routine and bring in goodies and that sort of thing, or to the doctor's offices?
You have to, because people, they like snacks, they like coffee, they like, sugar, lunch, that kind of thing. And if buying lunch for the office will give me 10, 15 minutes to talk to them about what I do, so they'll actually listen and I'll have their attention. Because again, it's their free period, it's their lunch hour when they're supposed to be relaxing. So if me providing lunch gives me 10 minutes, 15 minutes to give my spiel and tell them what I do, totally worth it. But yes, I do those things as well to help get in front of them. Because they don't have the time to do this research, so they don't know who's out there.
Right.
Mhm.
And so much of it is probably uh the just how they feel about you, and how you're
Yes,
connecting. It's a very
yes,
personalized business, isn't it?
yes. If you're rubbing people the wrong way, it really probably doesn't matter how much they need your service. If they don't like you, they have to know, like, and trust you. And if they don't like you, they're not going to get to know you. And that, I think that happens in the first couple seconds when you come across,
Hmm.
which I'll be honest, I get very nervous. I know what I'm doing and I know how to explain it. But when I'm meeting like a larger group for the first time, I'm like, why? Why are you still nervous? But you know, you do your
Well,
best.
you probably were nervous coming into this podcast, but it's not evident, so you
Okay,
come across smooth. And
good.
also, it's probably best to show up with chocolate chip cookies for dessert and not coconut, um, or something that people are going to hate. You better come in
Oh,
with the good stuff.
yes, yes, definitely the good chocolates, the good candies, the good lunches. And it's funny you say that. I'll oftentimes ask when it's a luncheon, like, what do you prefer? And they'll look at me and I'm like, well, what do people like or hate? I don't want to bring people a bunch of stuff they're gonna hate. And they'll kind of be a little bit bashful. And I'm like, I'm genuinely asking what you guys eat, and
Yeah,
so that's usually kind of a good icebreaker, because then they're like, oh, she's not messing. I'm like, yes, I want to make sure you actually like lunch and you eat it. So yeah,
right.
yeah, it's funny you say that, Mark.
And
Yes.
if they're big Chipotle fans, they
Oh
know
my God.
exactly what they want on their bowl. So,
Oh
well,
my
let me
God.
ask you
Yes.
this as we start to wind down a little bit.
Hmm.
Talk to me about what the most fulfilling moments in your work feel like. And you're in an industry where you probably get some good some good vibes and good feelings from what you're doing, because you're doing good stuff for people. So what and share a goosebump moment where you felt just in the zone and almost gave you goosebumps, or maybe did.
Did I
Did
phrase
you
for
hear
you,
it?
Mark? Yes, I did.
Did,
I heard it. Okay.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you're,
Um,
yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
Um, so good moment wise is I had we'll call her Jane for anonymity. I had a lady, and this happened more than once, but one of the most recent ones. I had a lady that she was a referral from the neurologist, and she was adamantly against moving. She loved her home, which I don't blame her. And she was paranoid. She did have dementia, and she was at that stage where she was very paranoid about, a lot of people and everyone's trying to take my money and that kind of stuff. And so I went to her house, and her daughter had called me, and I went to her house, met with her and her daughter, and long story short, something vibed, something gelled, which is usually the outcome. And she liked me and she trusted me. And we went to one place. We thought it was gonna be the perfect fit. Her daughter and I, for certain reasons. And she was like, no, blah, blah. And she didn't give a specific reason. So I was like, oh, she's just still not ready. And then we toured another place, and she literally said, this is the place. And I'm like, okay, I thought it was the disease making her more paranoid still. And we made the move, got her all settled. She put on like 10 pounds, which she needed to. She was a very thin little lady. She was happy. She's eating, she's sleeping. I remember that first visit after she moved in, I visited her the next day. I slept like a baby. So to hear that, you're just like so happy. Because I mean, eating and
Hmm.
sleeping sounds so basic, but if you don't sleep well and you don't eat well, that's kind of a big hindrance to being healthy and vital and living well. And that was a very good feeling. And when those things happen, she's not the first, and hopefully she won't be the last. But it was a very good feeling, and she just made me feel warm and fuzzy. Reminded me, like when I'm stressed out, like this outcome is why you do this.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry, Mark, I forgot the second part of the
No,
question.
that was it. And
Okay, okay.
it's an interesting response because it sounds like the response that she had was similar to how some of us walk into our home, our new home, um, and we just know it. I've actually had it
Yes,
happen twice where you
yes,
just go, yep, and you don't even have to, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that.
yeah,
You don't have to check boxes. You just know, oh,
yes,
there's the backyard and there's this, and it just all falls into
yeah,
place. But it's interesting
exactly.
that it was a facility that gave her that feeling. And probably it was people and decor and who knows what all.
Well, it's not a facility, so it's home. It's
Oh,
gonna be
okay.
home. So it has to feel,
Right.
that's the goal, because it's home. We look at it as a facility, but it's home. Like it's home with help and assistance, right? With
Hmm.
with their ADLs, but it's going to be home. So when that happens, you're just like, yes, they got the goosebumps, and they feel it.
And I'm sure it's very fulfilling for you and to be able to visit later on. Sounds like you
Yes,
do go and visit
yes,
your clients
yes, yes,
afterwards.
yes, they do. It's interesting
Um,
to see how they're doing and what they've changed and what activities they're doing, and how they've decorated. At the end of the day, I'm still a woman. We like looking at decorations and how people, so, and it's fun for them to talk about and show off too, like what they put where and why and that kind of stuff.
mhm. Um, Here's an interesting little sideline. I'm extending this a little bit because I feel like we need to start winding up. But what
Mhm.
about pets at these facilities? Some will allow them and certain types, and I'm sure it's so helpful to
Yes,
the client
yes.
resident.
Most places, not all, but most places will accept the pets. So typically a cat or a dog. I've heard of a bird once or twice. But usually it's a cat or a dog, small to medium sized dog. The person has to be able to take care of it and has to be up on its shot records. Um, But yeah, it's not a hard no. Now, when we get into memory care, that becomes a little more
Yeah.
difficult to find. So then, because, we got to make sure it's a good fit, and that if they start slipping on the taking care of the pet, that the staff can be tasked with that. Because you never want to just abruptly remove the pet. That's obviously pretty traumatic. So, but yeah, we can find workarounds and solutions for when they have pets.
And I'm
Yeah,
sure it helps them so much. I'm going back to my mom being in a nursing home,
yeah,
and having her dog there was just so helpful for her.
yes.
So,
Very comforting.
and she was a very social person, so she was just in her element. She actually was sort of an uh, unofficial salesperson. I'm sure
Yes.
I'm sure there's that person in most
Yeah.
facilities.
Almost always have an unofficial salesperson, and you sometimes have the naysayer. But so yes, yes,
Yeah.
you see both. Yeah.
So was it naysayer? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Yes. 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 Right. There, and that's just the truth, right? Not everyone is happy about that transition. So, but at least it's honest. It's honest.
Yeah. And what can the salesperson do? Probably not much. But I'm envisioning that person standing behind the salesperson who's giving the tour. They're going,
Oh, they're usually not even that discreet. Like it's not that frequent that it'll happen, but sometimes you'll get a person say something like the food is terrible, or they'll make but it really isn't as often as I would have thought, just in general, but it's happened before. And usually if it happens, they're really not discreet. They don't
or
care.
they're handing notes to the person. Help, get me out of
Hell,
here.
well, I haven't seen that in assisted living. That I have seen in memory care. That's actually sad. Um, but yeah, in the assisted living, when people are unhappy, they're usually vocal about it, and they're not um discreet or shameful. They're just, you know. But again, is it the right setting? So sometimes nothing is wrong with that assisted living. It's just not right for that person.
Right.
So yeah,
They
that's
may
why it's
not be
important.
social and want to be
Yeah,
left alone.
yeah.
So this has been really good. And um, how can people in the area contact you? And or even if they're not in the area, if they like your approach and would
Mhm,
like to start with you,
mhm.
then you can uh, help them find what they need where they are.
They can call me or text me, 941-586-3033. They can email me. I won't rattle that off. I can maybe add it to the notes or something at the end.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
they can go to bradenton.carepatrol.com and fill out the form. Again, it's not going to go to the universe. It'll come straight to me, and I'll give them a call, and we literally just start the process. And again, there's no pressure. This isn't like a car salesman process. And I have nothing against car salesmen. I got family in the business, but it's not a high pressure process. Sometimes we meet with people, and after going over everything, I'm like, you would just benefit from seeing your doctor again because you've re-situated your medications, or you just need somebody to clean your house twice a month or cook your food, help you. So they don't have to feel, because I know people get nervous to reach out to people in general that have some kind of product or service. This is not like a high pressure, this is like a fact finding session. We figure out what path is best for you. So they call, email, or text. And we can get the process started to see what's a good option.
Okay. And the one thing that you didn't give, if you'll send that to Libby, we'll put it down in the show notes. There was one piece of contact information that you didn't give. So
Oh, okay.
I think. Uh,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
really informative and helpful. And I'm in the Oldsmar area, and there may be some people here that would like to reach out to you just because of the way that you approach it. So I
Mm,
appreciate
give me
that.
a call, reach out. Thank you for having me, Mark. I appreciate this. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, let me thank the guests and then we'll wrap up here. So thanks everybody for being with us on the Thrive Co-Living Communities podcast. It was a pleasure having Sara with us today. Hopefully it was informative for you. If you like the podcast episode, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you'll be alerted when there are future episodes. And we're here mostly weekly. If you want to learn more about Thrive Co-Living Communities, where we're addressing this epidemic of loneliness that still exists after COVID and really existed prior to COVID, visit our website at Thrive Co-Living Communities, plural, communities.org for more information. All right, thanks, and we'll see you all next time. And Sara, we'll circle back maybe in a few months and see how things are going and seeing if there are more challenges and more fulfillment.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another great episode of the Thrive Co-Living Communities YouTube podcast. To learn more about our mission and how you can support our vision of creating co-living communities worldwide, please visit us at thrivecolivingcommunities.org. To receive advanced viewings of our podcast and other exclusive content, find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Thrive Co-Living Communities. You can also learn more ways to support our mission in the show notes below. Amazon Smile, GoFundMe, Kroger, and our own Thrive Gear store, where you can buy t-shirts, hats, and many other items. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.